What's your biggest flex that you'll never tell anyone? Deaf person here who wears hearing aids and relies heavily on lip reading. I get excited on the extremely rare occasions I can figure out a spoken phrase without any lip reading. It almost never happens. Or when I recognize a song I know. But there's no point in bragging, because other people will just think I'm not that deaf and make less of an effort to face me/speak clearly. Lol. I was quoted on some literary website one time for something I said off the cuff in an argument. I also got to play a few shows with some of my favorite bands of all time. But I'm so far removed from that music scene now that no one I know would ever care about it except for me. I have OCD. Like, legit clinically diagnosed. One of my compulsions, before treatment, was counting things, no matter how large or small the quantity. I counted every step I took while running a marathon and have never forgotten the number. 38. 527. With therapy over the years I have managed to fully manage my illness. That race was before I sought treatment. I bought some then relatively worthless Apple stock because I thought I'd be able to eBay the stock certificate with the rainbow Apple logo when the company went out of business. My investment guy just thinks I'm really clever. I've not corrected him. When I was 15 I won a scholarship to study ballet in Russia. It was amazing. I'm on the top page of the high scores for runa crafting in the game Old School RuneScape. I got accepted into Mensa and then immediately realized I don't want to hang out with the type of people who join Mensa, so I never went through with it. I'm too embarrassed to tell anyone I took the test. I was in the grocery store and saw an older woman standing in the aisle comparing what was in her cart to what was in her wallet, obviously counting to see if she could afford everything. Based on her body language as she walked away I could tell that the answer was no. So I took a 20 out and walked up to her and said, "Ma'am, when you were over there just a second ago this fell out of your wallet." I handed her the bill and just walked away so she wouldn't be embarrassed if she figured out I was lying. I did hear her say thank you, so I half turned and told her you're welcome. Have a nice night. It was only 20, but I think it made a difference to her. And that felt amazing. I discovered, verified, and reported a critical security flaw in a US Army computer system, which was then quickly patched. Seems especially relevant these days, though it was over a year ago. For future reference, on the off chance that you ever find something similar, Duty actually has a hacker one page. I'm one of those people that with minor changes to hair/facial hair I'll look like a completely different person. It'll be useful if I ever need to go on the lam. Eater. I developed the habit of carrying 4 different types of photo IDs all with different hair and facial hairstyles because of this. I raised 100,000 for a scholarship fund in the memory of my deceased twin brother. Since that time we've given away over 200 scholarships. I keep light up sketches under my bed to walk around the house at night. I finished a tube of chapstick without losing it once. I never get bored. Ever. It's a useful superpower when I'm stuck in certain situations. I'm never interested. I have depression, too. Had a class where the professor was pissed that everyone did really bad on an essay and was yelling at the class. He said that aside from one person who got a 97% he was disappointed with everyone there. I had a 97%. In my public speaking class I had to give a speech on procrastination. I wrote the speech an hour before class. In my feedback notes I was told I had great preparation. At one point I could sing along perfectly to We Didn't Start the Fire. I still know most of the words, but I'm always so embarrassed to sing in front of other people lol. I saw Elton John in Vegas. Red piano tour. During Benny and the Jets I can whistle extremely loudly. I nailed the whistle part that is on live version of the song that plays on the radio. He smiled. I've been clean 6 months off heroin for the first time in 5 years. I have a no gag will go to my grave. Married man with 3 kids. I have enough old, valuable Magic the Gathering cards to buy a car. A new, really nice car. I don't tell anyone in real life because they're from when I was young and collected them. And my current social circle would think it's kid/nerd stuff and wouldn't understand. Doesn't get me down, though. Current plan is to hold on to them until they go up enough over time to match my mortgage balance. Then use them to pay off my house. I dropped a fry from my mouth and slapped it to try and save it. It landed back in the box. I lived with my grandparents my whole life who lived in a small little house across the street from a big fancy neighborhood development. They lived in the same house for 40 years before the development. It was a very bad hill on a busy road with the neighborhood in trance at the bottom of the hill which was across the street from our house. Me and my grandpa would pull people out of wrecks all the time. Saved a bunch of lives, but sadly saw over 10 people die on that hill growing up. The big fancy people in that neighborhood would always bring us food and gifts. They called my grandpa the gatekeeper. I intentionally don't step on ants just because they're cool. Some of my memes I created on Tumblr still float around to this day. One was featured on BuzzFeed a few years ago, not something exciting on a resume, but I still like to think about it. Me and my girlfriend created in the past a YouTube channel for kids, playing with toys using only our hands and voices. We had videos hitting 300k views. But we uploaded few videos, like 10 videos, because our priorities changed and we stopped. But we were still able to make several $100s from them. And the videos still generate some money today after many years. I think if we had continued with that, maybe we would be able to make a lot of money. I regret we didn't keep uploading more videos. Do you know that random, intuitive ideas you have sometimes? Pay attention to them. Your DP is smarter than yourself sometimes. I ran over a half marathon at night for 5 months every day. I shouldn't be proud because that was my lowest point mentally, but I was. My biggest flex I keep quiet is that I made right about 15,000 playing a video game semi-professionally. Now is the time where people think stuff like that is cool, but 2 years ago, when it was happening, I got made fun of by my girlfriend the one time I mentioned it. I saw a lizard in the middle of a busy road. I bent down on the side of the road and called for it as I put my hands out, and he ran straight into my arms. I carried him to safety and didn't think anything of it until I heard a stranger behind me go, "Did y'all see that Speep? She's a lizard whisperer." Man, I wish there was another witness because I bet I looked cool. I'm on level 4,000 in Candy Crush. I should've put a serious tag on this. Woman in my office had a fairly long piece of TP attached to her shoe and I stepped on it and attached it from her shoe. I felt like a superhero. I still feel like a superhero about it. As a kid, saved a kid from ongoing child abuse by his parents. Was staying over there and had met them only briefly due to them being one of several families hosting us in a city kids out in the rich suburbs while we worked with their kids on a local theater production. This was decades ago, FYI. Well, it didn't take the whole week we were in town for me to realize how scared he was, and despite feeling guilty about waiting to report his stories until after our trip, I was told that his parents were investigated soon after and he was moved to other family. I don't know. Feels like a flex and also a tragedy at the same time, since who knows if he ended up any better off. I hope so. When I was in high school, we did a toy drive with our homeroom classes around the holidays, where each class was assigned a family in need to donate money to or buy toys for. By the last day, almost none of the toys had been bought from the kids' lists. We'd just collected a modest chunk of money for the family. I went home and told my mom that I didn't need anything, but I would like to get some of those things the kids asked for. My mom and dad talked. They'd both grown up poor and knew the money we'd collected would probably be used on necessities, not toys. So my mom and I went out and came back home with about 300 worth of toys the kids had asked for. I brought them in early before school started and submitted them and the receipts for them to my homeroom teacher. Later on, one of my classmates, who I had great disdain for ever since the 3rd grade, when he blatantly stole my new pencil, came in and announced he was making the biggest contribution of our class with a $40 donation. The teacher made eye contact with me, but I remained neutral and shrugged. So the teacher didn't correct him, just smiled and said thank you to him. I figure he needed that affirmation more than me, and I never liked being center of attention anyway. I wrote a popular and successful fanfic years and years ago. I still live on that high. I made a Minecraft tutorial video when I was 15 that got 20k views. When my girlfriend and I worked at the same bar, I threw a coaster at her like a frisbee. It arced over her and like 20 customers, only to land perfectly on the neat stack of other coasters like 50 feet away. It was so cool, but nobody noticed, except one customer who I later had to kick out for taking a nap on the bar. No point in telling anybody, but I look back fondly on that moment. Paid off 40k in net during quarantine due to no more daycare costs for 3 kids. And better paying job for the wife. Also dropped body fat from 14% to 7% using my ghetto ass home gym while everyone was complaining about the quarantine 15. Went from having one family meal a week to almost daily. I don't tell anyone this obviously because there are people going through tough times, especially family and close friends, and I can empathize with that as it hasn't been completely smooth and there were some stressful moments. But I'm proud of what my wife and I were able to do in a relatively short amount of time, but haven't shared any of this at the risk of alienating anyone. I secretly enjoy everyone's shock when they first meet my wife. I'm not insanely attractive. I'm a nerdy scientist. My wife is a doctor. She's funny, driven. She's smarter than me. She's 5'9" and could very well be a model. In fact, she's been approached numerous times to move to New York City. We've known each other since 2nd grade. Started dating in college. My high school/college friends are still baffled that I casually married the most attractive girl we knew in high school/college. Because we both have insanely busy schedules. We can go months or years without meeting each other's coworkers. My favorite reaction from mine is "That's your wife." I'm sure it's vice versa for her. No one will see this because I'm way late, but when I was in elementary school, me and a friend were playing video games together and he started choking on a piece of food stuck in his throat. It wasn't getting dislodged, so I did the Heimlich maneuver and it came out. I don't remember anyone else finding out what happened. Whenever I think about telling this story, it always comes out with a "that happened" type of feel, so I have kept it to myself. Every day in junior year of high school I would eat my lunch, stand up, and toss my trash toward the wide-mouthed trash can about 25 feet away. Every day. I would miss. I would then routinely do the walk of shame to get it all thrown away. This went on until the spring. It was April or May, I forget when exactly, and I stood up and threw my trash at the can. What do you know? After a few months I made it. It was a small victory, but I did an air fist and then made eye contact with a kid who was in the marching band with me. Apparently he had watched me do this ritual every day and was ready to celebrate with me. So he began to slow clap. Then, the rest of his table clapped, not knowing why, but it was high school, so who cared? Then the effect spread until the entire cafeteria, about 1,500 students, were giving thunderous applause, only 2 of us knowing why. I took a bow and then sat down and everyone just went back to eating their lunch like nothing happened. Because nothing really happened. It was a weird rush. I'm either really good at talking to people and pretty charismatic, or I'm a totally peeping buffoon who makes everyone cringe. No in between. My debit card went through for a really large amount and the lady behind the counter had been being so smug and irritating for so long, and then she tried to deny my card because it wouldn't go through for that amount and I asked her to just please try it. The look on her face when it went through was so satisfying. May I never make that larger purchase again. I have a ton of money. I've always worked whatever jobs. Restaurant server, retail, etc. Boring kinda wage slave stuff. My living expenses are low. Studio apartment and just pretty minimal spending. I live a comfortable life, just as anyone would with my paychecks. But I got into investing and cryptocurrency online about 8 years ago and just got lucky. Spread out among multiple investments I'm at almost 8 mil. Literally just kinda threw some extra money at stuff in the first couple years and was able to make really good returns. I live the same life I always did. Almost doesn't feel like I earned this money at all. No one knows. Parents, family, friends. I don't want anyone I care about to change their perspective of me because I have this money. Still working a simple job and living in the same studio. I'm comfortable and happy outside of the money. I fixed the connection on a keg of Guinness at my St. Patrick's Day. I mean, it's kinda cool, but who would really care? My coworkers don't know I was severely abused as a child. Became a raging drug user and alcoholic, and moved out at age 17. Somehow went to college, and have an extremely respectable job, where I look normal. Or at least I think I look passable. I was in the shower once, and had been holding in a pee for a while. I attempted to pee over my shoulder and it worked. I have something else to say, but I must go to my alt. I have gotten to a place in my life that, unless I tell someone, it is nearly impossible to tell I have autism. My team won second place in a Dota 2 competition at Salt Lake Gaming Con. There were only 2 teams that entered, and we got destroyed. I can suck my own lips. Hot. He's a guy. I beat Morbid spiraled into a violent battle with anorexia, which I also beat. I eventually went on to get into modeling, weightlifting, and more. Compare pictures of me now, with pictures of me from 5 years ago, with pictures of me from 10 years ago, and they all look like completely different people. I'm the reason that toucans are behind glass at the birdhouse of the Philadelphia Zoo. Edit. Well, since everyone is so curious, I'll give the short version. I was at the birdhouse when I was around 9 years old. The toucans were allowed to fly around this room they had. While I was in there, a toucan landed on the railing near a bunch of people, which caused a bit of a disturbance and a bunch of people ran out. I got knocked around during this and was a little out of it. While I was a bit confused, the toucan had dropped to the floor and made its way over to me. I was wearing sandals and I guess my toes looked like berries, so it bit my foot. It was a hell of a startle and I kicked the thing as hard as I could and ran out. I got my mom to get us out of there. Beckwade, I didn't want to get in trouble. A few weeks later we went back to the zoo. I tried to avoid it, but my family dragged me back into the birdhouse. I didn't tell them what had happened, so they were pretty confused. When we got to the toucans, they were behind glass. I haven't eaten Foot Loops since.